More than a dozen police units from Arlington, Fort Worth, and the Tarrant County Sheriff's Office have converged here in Feather Park on the shores of Lake Arlington, responding to a call for help from Arlington Police Officer Tommy Dingman.
Well, I was on patrol in the bathroom, going out there, and two, males came out of the girls' side of the bathroom. When they did, they started running. I told them to stop, so I called for help and went out running toward the fence line. They fired one shot at me. I ducked down, missed me about 6 inches behind my leg when I dove for the ground, and they started running again, and I started chasing again. They fired again. I ducked down, and that time I stayed down for a while longer, and they got up running. Where they went to now, I don't know.
The man in charge of the operation is Arlington Assistant Police Chief J.D. McGee. Most immediately after the call went out for help, and shortly thereafter, Bell Helicopter dispatched two of its choppers to position themselves high above the search area to correlate ground activities by radio. Then the dragnet began, with 40 officers and auxiliary officers moving out in a long, shotgun-studded line for a march across 250 acres of wooded parkland. Channel 8 newsmen Reggie Ward and Jay Lewis went with the frontline lawmen.
Jerry, the problem is that the underbrush is so dense, the leaves have started turning color, that you could walk within 10 feet of them and never see it. Now, we covered an area that probably ranges between 1,000 and 2,000 acres. And, of course, it's impossible even for a major police force to cover all that adequately.
We're going to call off the general search and just leave some units on patrol in the area.
As is always the case in a situation like this, the rumors have been flying rapidly all morning long. A young boy reported he saw a man with a gun going behind a barn. He did. It was one of the police officers in the search. There were also a number of totally unsubstantiated reports of people missing, possibly taken as hostages. None of those have been substantiated. Apparently they were all untrue. The search goes on here with a reduced force, as you heard the chief say. Jerry Taff, Channel 8 News on the move near Lake Arlington.
I think so. I think the defense really picked up in the St. Louis game, in St. Louis, and we played, real good Sunday, and it's going to take that type of defensive effort for us to get anywhere near the Super Bowl. So I think we were playing much better as a unit compared to the first part of the season. That's the thing that the coaches like to see, and like I said, that's what it's going to take.
I remember last year at this very same point in the season, instead of 6-3, you were 5-4 and apparently out of it. Now you're very much in it. But at that point, apparently you guys as a 40-man squad decided to play it for yourself and to play it loose. Are you trying to play it loose this year, or is there a lot of pressure involved?
Yes, there's pressure involved. It's not a whole lot of pressure. You know what you're going to have to do to win it. And, it's a funny thing. You really can't put your finger on the exact thing it takes to win. The exact thing to put a team together. It just happens.
We had shots at Douglas and missed them, and I think that they're maybe a little more difficult to contain on an AstroTurf field if they're good runners. Now, Roger made 90 yards last week, by the way, Roger Staubach. And so we have the same type of quarterback, except that I think Roger's a little faster. I know we used to scrimmage the Dallas Cowboys over at Thousand Oaks, and they timed him in a 4.8, 40 yards.
Well, Texas is the favorite because they're the holders, and ever since the league started, they've won the event.
but there are more and more teams coming into contention this year. Texas Tech, for example, have a 10-0-0 record, which is very good, and they've beaten us 4-2 so far this season in the only game we played against each other, but I think that SMU can pull it off at home.
Bertie, let's go in inverse order in the manner in which the games will be played and go all the way to Monday night, the game that will be televised on Channel 8, first of all. Green Bay is at Atlanta. Who do you pick in that game?
By Green Bay by 3 over the Falcons.
Despite the fact that Atlanta is at home in the game. You're going with Green Bay?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Second on our list is an interconference game, the New York Giants playing at Pittsburgh. Who do you like in that one?
The New York Giants by 14 over Pittsburgh.
14 points?
Yes.
Okay. Number 3, San Diego at Oakland, and San Diego looked very good Monday night.
Oakland by 9 over the Chargers.
You weren't impressed with San Diego like I was. Number 4, the Jets are playing at Buffalo.
The Jets by 2 over Buffalo.
Only by 2?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll go with it. Number 5, the New England Patriots are playing at Cleveland, and Cleveland has lost 4 in a row.
Cleveland by 6 over the Patriots.
The Oilers have won only 1 game this year, and they're playing at Cincinnati. Who do you pick in that one?
The Cincinnati Bengals by 12 over the Oilers.
Okay. Denver's got a new coach this week, and they play at Kansas City. Who do you like in that one?
Kansas City by 1 over the Broncos.
Only by 1?
Yes.
Despite the fact that Kansas City's at home?
Yes.
Okay, by 1 point. Means John Stenerud may have to kick a field goal on that one. Let's take Philadelphia at St. Louis, and the Eagles played here in Dallas last week.
The Eagles by 1 over St. Louis.
By 1. Philadelphia is coming on. Okay, that's not really a surprise. How about a big game in the American Football Conference? Baltimore is playing at Miami.
The Colts by 5 over the Dolphins.
Interestingly enough, it's announced today that Johnny Unitas will start at quarterback for Baltimore in that one. Minnesota plays at New Orleans. New Orleans with a big upset last week over San Francisco. Do you think they'll win it?
The Vikings by 18 over the Saints.
Obviously you don't. You're not impressed with New Orleans like some of the rest of us. Detroit at Chicago in a very, very important game for both of those two teams.
Detroit by 1 over the Chicago Bears.
Maybe considered a bit of an upset there. Let me see. San Francisco at Los Angeles out on the West Coast in a big, big ball game for those two teams.
San Francisco by 4 over the Los Angeles Rams.
Well, that would give San Francisco a game and a half edge. Well, we've gotten to the big one now. The Cowboys are going to Washington Sunday. It's going to be the most important game of the year for us. Do you like our chances?
Yes, the Dallas Cowboys by 4 over the Washington Redskins.
Now that you've said that, I've got to ask you why. Is it just a feeling that you have about these games, how you go about picking them?
I don't know. I try not to be partial. I really don't know.
We returned 4 starters, but we lost our great one, Eugene Goo Kennedy, who was Player of the Year. And we haven't been able to replace him. And so we will be a very sharp team. We will be fast. But I'm afraid we can't rebound well enough to win it. But, you know, time will tell, and we'll see.
Who do you think will have to lead the club this year?
Who do I think what?
Will have to lead the club this year, give it the leadership.
Well, the leadership always comes from your guards, Jerry. And we return both of our guards, Jim Ferguson and James Williams. And the leadership will come from them. But we need that big guy that can get those rebounds like Kennedy did last year.
Do you have any junior college transfers this year, Coach?
No, we didn't bring in any, Jerry. We are limited on the number of scholarships we could give this year, and we couldn't get the boy we wanted, and so we took none.
How do you see the race?
I see the usual dogfight that's always in the Southwest Conference. I can't see any clean-cut favorite.
This looks like a normal lawn somewhere in Dallas County. It's not really normal. Let me show you why. You can roll it back just as you would a carpet. This lawn has been affected by grub worms, which some people have reached epidemic proportions. Neil Sperry is the county horticulturist for Dallas County. Neil, just how widespread is this problem?
Jerry, we've got a real problem with this right now. I would say probably that anywhere from 20 to 40% of our lawns in Dallas County have some amount of this damage from the grubworms right now.
Are people really realizing that they have a problem like this?
Jerry, not really. The thing is, this grass is turning brown before it dies, and the people think that this is just normal for fall. Really, our grass up until the time of the real first hard frost, down around 30, 31 degrees, will be green to some amount. Now, this grass isn't green anymore.
Is this grass beyond repair?
In this location, yes, Jerry. Anytime that the roots are totally severed, that's what's actually happening with these grubworms. The grass is pretty much beyond repair. It's pretty hard to get roots to regrow at this point.
How can you cure it?
Diazinon is about the only chemical that has given us any good results. I would recommend that people put it on as soon as they know that they have grubworms in their lawn. Double the strength over what is recommended for chinch bugs. And Jerry, grubs are not on the label for diazinon, so all we can say is to use twice what they're recommending for chinch bugs, and water it in real well after you put it on.
What's the difference between an armyworm and a grubworm?
A lot of damage. The armyworms come along and they will eat the leaves. They don't do any real permanent damage to the lawn. They were back a couple months ago. Grubworms are actually feeding on the roots, so they can kill a lawn very, very rapidly over a period of a couple of months.
To show you how serious it is, one final note. These little worms are expected to cause damage to property owners in Dallas County, estimated at several $1 million. Jerry Park, Channel 8 News on the Move in North Dallas.
Oh, initially, I think that we must fight vigorously to expand the program, to expand the staff, the budget, and I intend to lobby in every way for support, both the Bar Association and National OEO office for expanding the Dallas Legal Services Project. I think that in a city this large that the program is greatly underfunded and it must be expanded if we're to give quality service to the poor.
Do you feel that you're going to have unanimous support of the Dallas Bar Association?
I couldn't predict that. I would hope so.
Does this same feeling extend to board members?
I think that we will receive certainly the majority support of the board.
Are there any immediate plans that you have that might grossly change the present structure of the DLS?
Well, I think that I will probably have to wait until I can get an idea as to what exactly is going on in the project and assess the situation before I can make such a statement.
Would just be wet enough that they might have left some tracks.
They've checked up there and can't pick up any tracks. They've checked all the way through to Shorewood Drive and couldn't locate any more tracks.
I think it's very obvious that Channel 13 invited me to participate in their program last evening. They asked me to ask 10 other people to come. I asked 10 other people to come and had not only verbal but written assurances from Channel 13 that Mr. Lipscomb or others would not be permitted to be disruptive. Contrary to that pledge, the disruption occurred.
Well, it seems like your problem would be with Channel 13. They made their promise.
Mr. Lipscomb entered, I understand, against the wishes of the program director of Channel 13.
Sheriff Jackson, how did you find the man, Parker?
Well, we had the information that he's caught a ride out of Bonham and went to Sherman. And the police department cooperated with us over there, and the sheriff's department cooperated with us, and they located him at an apartment house. And he made a run for it, and they caught him.
What do you know about the man? Where's he from?
Well, I've never known him before, but he says he's from Houston. He's living in Houston now, but he has been living in Denison quite a while. But he actually was born in Kansas, I believe.
Was there any evidence on the man to connect him with the shooting, or any way that you can be certain you have the right man?
We don't have that evidence right now, no, sir.
What about your witness, the woman who was in the store? Will she be able to identify him?
Yes, sir. Said she'll be able to identify him.
When will she see him?
Probably tomorrow, maybe this afternoon.
The amended judgment in the SEC case from Judge Sarah T. Hughes does not change any of the injunctions that were issued at the end of the actual trial, but it does spell out in no uncertain terms what Judge Hughes finds to have been the case in regard to a number of matters in the SEC trial. This also points out the areas that can be expected to be involved in criminal charges that other agencies will be filing sometime in the future. She uses such language as these certain defendants were converting assets to personal gain. She finds these fraudulent acts, and so on. These are the areas in which other agencies will be looking for criminal charges. In fact, it has taken about a month for Judge Hughes and her law clerk, Bill Walker, to prepare this 30-page judgment. There is considerable more work having to be done by other agencies as they work on possible criminal charges. This judgment also interprets some of the regulations and law as it applies to this case. It nails down the fact that transactions involved in the stock fraud case do constitute a sale of stock under the SEC regulations. Also, the interpretation here is based on a similar situation which brought about the filing of criminal charges against an individual that helped eventually to bring about the resignation of Supreme Court Justice Abe Fortas. It also points out that a person who is in a publicly owned corporation is in a position of trust and is responsible for following the law, whether or not he is aware of certain violations of the law. This is Rosser McDonald, Channel 8 News on the Move at the Dallas Federal Building.
The direct answer to that is yes. The probability of that happening is many orders of magnitude less than it was, 5 years ago, 4 years ago. The reason I don't give you a flat-out yes is any time that we've got a human being here, I'm just as fallible as anybody else. And I know that my brother Man is too, and we haven't found a way to get him out. And if Man can make a mistake, we can have an incident like that again. But to those that extent that it's possible to design a system, a communication system, and to reduce the possibility of error, I think we haven't gone as far as we can go, but we've gotten the probability down to something that I think you and I can sleep easily with.
that at this stage in industrial development, really American industry is on trial. And they have the opportunity to help solve social problems or create social problems. Now, if they don't solve the social problems, then they're going to have to pay additional taxes so the government can solve these problems. And I feel very strongly that if industry would step in with its more efficient techniques, its more objective view of these things, that industry could solve these problems cheaper.
I expect that there will be some degree of discussion regarding the qualifications of the various people who have been nominated for the position. I expect a director to be selected tonight, and there is some possibility that if the decision is made tonight, that my name will be considered.
A statement has been attributed to certain people in the community that the next director must be black. Do you consider this a valid statement?
I think that the next director should be a minority director.
Then you don't have any preference to color, if he's black or brown?
No, I do not.
In the past, there has also been some controversy in that there's an alleged split between the black and the Chicano communities in Dallas. Do you feel that if you were named director that you could patch up this difference?
I think that if I were judged on the basis of my actions rather than the fabrications of people who have motives not my own, that my actions would justify the confidence of the Chicano community.
I guess I should preface that by another question. Do you feel that there is in fact a split between the black and brown communities of Dallas?
I think that there is some degree of divergence of interest. When an issue arises, there sometimes is a disagreement, as you would expect. However, I don't think it's something that cannot be remedied. I think it can be solved, and I would hope to bridge the gap.
Do you feel that this alleged split is by design, or is it just a natural thing?
Well, the present split regarding the Dallas Legal Services Project, I certainly do not consider a natural thing. I consider it to be something which was created.
At this point, can you see where there is any faction who would be against your nomination for any specific reason?
Oh, I think that there's some evidence that perhaps some persons would like to continue to control the program, and by exerting their influence through a certain nominee or a certain representative of their segment of the community.